Welcome to Beyond the Badge. Beyond the Badge is an inside look at your Oshkosh Police Department, brought to you through the resources of Oshkosh Community Media Services.
Welcome to this edition of Beyond the Badge. I'm Joe Nichols. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and to raise awareness of domestic abuse and sexual assault in our community, on today's show, we'll be talking with Mary Ann Radley, who is the Victim Advocate and Volunteer Coordinator for Reach Counseling Services, and Katie Husky, who is the UW-Oshkosh Campus Victim Advocate. Later in the show, we will continue our discussion about domestic violence in our community as we will be talking with Jean Clayveter and Brian Wright from the Christine Ann Center. We welcome all of you watching us on City Cable 10 and those of you listening to us on 101.9 WOCT. Mary Ann, thank you very much for coming. Katie, thank you very much for coming. And before we begin, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Mary Ann?
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you for having us on, Joe. We appreciate the opportunity. I am a 2007 graduate from UW-Oshkosh, and I also have a master's degree in counseling from Lakeland College, and I've been the victim advocate with Reach Counseling Services for the last 4 years.
Very good. And Katie, please tell us about yourself.
And I have my bachelor's degree in social work, graduated in 2012. I started with Reach Counseling actually as a volunteer and moved on to be an intern, and now I work as the campus advocate.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for joining us here today on Beyond the Badge. And Mary Ann, first of all, Take Back the Night is fast approaching, and please tell us a little about this year's event.
Sure. Well, it's going to follow the same format as most other years have. This is actually our 23rd annual event in Oshkosh, so we're very excited to be holding it again on the UW-Oshkosh campus. It's coming up on Wednesday, October 9th. It begins at 5:30 p.m., and we're going to start the event out with a resource and activities fair, so folks who join us at the event will be able to walk around, partake in different activities, and visit resource booths of many different community resources to learn a little bit about what the community has to offer. After that, we will continue with our survivor speakers and educational component. So this year we have a survivor speaker actually talking about her experience with human trafficking, which is a new topic for us this year, but still is very much related. It is violence against women. So she'll be sharing her experience with us. We'll have an educational component as well, and followed by the traditional march that people think about when they hear about Take Back the Night. The march through the streets with our traditional chants. Closing the night out will be our third annual Never Silent art exhibit. October 9th is actually the opening night of the 2-week exhibit. That'll be taking place in the Stein-Hilber Gallery on the 3rd floor of the Union. Folks can join us for the opening night that evening, or they can visit the Never Silent art exhibit any time throughout the next 2 weeks following the event to see pieces of art created by survivors and allies. It's a very powerful exhibit.
Great. And who works together to make this night happen?
Yeah, there's actually several different agencies represented at the table when we come together to plan Take Back the Night. We work all year round for this one night in October, and representatives from Reach Counseling Services, as well as Christine Ann Domestic Abuse Services, the UW-Oshkosh Counseling Center and Women's Center participate, and Harbor House Domestic Abuse Programs from Appleton.
Great. And Katie, what is the campus's role in Take Back the Night?
The campus holds an important role in Take Back the Night. We actually hold the event itself, as Mary Ann said, and our Counseling Center and Women's Center sit on our planning committee that Mary Ann said that we do all year, as well as help promote events throughout the year.
Fantastic. And what is the role of the campus victim advocate?
As the victim advocate, I work with students and staff who are victims of sexual assault, dating violence, harassment, and stalking, and I help through the reporting process. I also attend court with clients. I attend SANE exams with them, and just do general personal advocacy. Being on campus, however, I do have some added responsibilities as an advocate.
Excellent. Okay. And what services do you have on campus that you wouldn't offer in the community?
On campus, I'm able to collaborate with key offices that are only campus specific. So the Dean of Students, Residence Life, the University Police. I work directly with the Dean of Students as well, and I'm able to collaborate these resources and help students find where they need to go. If they need to change a room, I'm able to connect them with the resources at Residence Life. If they're having trouble in their classes, I'm able to connect them with the Dean of Students who can help excuse from classes or help change a class schedule around, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, and Katie, as a REACH employee, how do you coordinate services between REACH and UW Oshkosh?
I'm really an extension of REACH Counseling Services into the campus community. I assure that students have access to advocacy services. The campus is really a community within itself. And what we found is that students are more likely to seek services if they don't have to leave the campus. That's in part, I think, why we have a student health center. The students can go straight to the student health center instead of leaving to see a doctor off campus. So this way, students who are victims of crimes can stay right here on campus, which is their safety net, and receive advocacy services free of charge.
Okay, great information. And Marianne, you work for REACH Counseling Services. What programs does REACH Counseling provide for the community?
Yeah, well, REACH is actually much more than just a counseling center in and of itself. We obviously have a counseling program. We specialize in treating victims and families who have been affected by sexual violence or have issues relating to trauma of sexual abuse. So we will see kids between the ages of 4 and 12 free of charge, just to ensure that those services for our most vulnerable victims are accessible and can be afforded by families by not incurring a charge for those. Additionally, we'll see teens and adults, really all ages, people that just need help with these types of issues. Beyond counseling is the advocacy program, which Katie touched on really great about what we do on campus. But up in Neenah, we provide, and throughout Winnebago County, I provide victim advocacy throughout the legal process, at the hospital, and then that personal advocacy that Katie spoke of as well. So we also offer a Latina program and Native American program for our advocacy work, and that is to ensure that our diverse community is receiving culturally sensitive services by providing advocates from their communities, being able to provide those services in Winnebago County as well as Calumet and Outagamie counties as well. We talked about what Katie does down here on the campus, great work in making students have access to advocacy services to make them feel less alone when they become victims of crime too. We have a program for sex offenders, so we'll treat offenders usually after they've been released from prison. It's a very rigorous treatment program. They have to graduate, meet deadlines, meet goals, and really show that they've made change to graduate from the program. We also have a prevention education program which goes out into, I think, just about every school in Winnebago County now, and they give age-appropriate information to students throughout the K through 12 here in the county.
Okay, and how does REACH counseling work with schools in the community?
Yeah, well, that would be our prevention education piece. So like I said, our prevention educator as well as a couple of her interns go into just about all the schools in Winnebago County. They are very busy, always on the go from one school to the next, and I believe in 2012 they spoke to something like 20,000 students in our community.
Wow.
So they're really, they are really making a lot of change and giving out a lot of good information to keep kids safe. So obviously they tailor their presentations to whatever age group that is they're talking to, and they'll start with protective behaviors down with the little kids, talking about protective behaviors and warning signs when you feel uncomfortable in someone's presence and who safe people are that they can talk to. And then as the kids get older, they'll talk more about healthy relationships, sexual abuse, what sexual assault is, and things like that.
Very good. And who is affected by sexual violence, and how prevalent is sexual abuse in the community?
Yeah, well, it's actually a lot more prevalent than I think people like to think. I believe personally that we are all affected by it, whether or not we're victims or survivors ourselves. We all know somebody that's been affected by this crime in one way or another. Statistics will tell us that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be affected by sexual abuse by the time they turn 18. That's a Wisconsin statistic. It's higher than the national average. We're not sure why. We like to believe that maybe it's because more people feel safe reporting here, and that's why we have higher numbers. But it's just important for folks to know that there are services out there that can help them throughout this process.
Very good. And Katie, how does sexual violence affect the campus community?
Well, national statistics show, as Marianne said, that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 college men will experience sexual violence during their academic career. And to me, these numbers are staggering. Survivors of sexual assault on campus have to worry about, they have to worry about running into their offender or their perpetrator on campus or being in class with this person. They have to worry about how this has affected them academically. They come to the campus ultimately to learn and to advance themselves into a career, and now all of a sudden they've been a victim of a crime, and oftentimes feel that through the healing process and through that trauma response that they just can't cope with school and cope with in regular life and what they have to do. And so it affects them, I think, a little differently than a community member who doesn't have those kind of responsibilities and those kind of things to worry about.
Okay. And you work for Reach Counseling, but are you on the campus? Where might students find you?
So I work in the counseling center on campus, which is located in the Student Success Building.
Okay, very good. And Marianne, how can people get involved with Reach Counseling Services?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of ways that people can get involved with Reach Counseling Services. As the volunteer coordinator, I have several opportunities for folks to get involved, from providing one-on-one support. I train volunteers to provide advocacy services after hours, so we're always available to provide an in-person response to people who call our crisis line. They'll never get an answering machine. My volunteers provide over-the-phone support as well as meet victims at the hospital if they're going through a sexual assault forensic examination. I also am looking for people to help kind of be our liaison in the community, do community outreach tables, let people know about the services that we provide. On top of all of that, we have several fundraisers scattered throughout the course of the year. People can always come, attend our events, show their support that way, or inquire about donations. As a nonprofit, we're always looking for donors.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Marianne and Katie, thank you so very much for being on today's show and talking with us. We very much appreciate it. And we'll be right back after this short break with Jean Clay-Veter and Brian Wright.
Hello, I'm City Manager Mark Roloff. Roundabouts are new to many of us in Oshkosh, so we have to take extra precaution when using them. Remember, safety is the key. Slow down. The speed limit in the roundabout is only 15 miles an hour. Avoid distractions. Focus all your attention on navigating the roundabout. Find the proper lane. Check out the signage leading up to the roundabout. Choose your lane assignment early and stay in your lane. Evaluate the situation. Take notice of what kind of vehicles are in front of you. Sometimes larger trucks need to take up both lanes of a roundabout. Think to look for pedestrians and allow them to cross when entering and exiting a roundabout. Yield to traffic on your left. You must yield to all traffic in the roundabout, and that traffic will be coming from your left. Again, safety is the key. Remember that word and what those letters represent, and your roundabout driving experience will be a smooth one. Thanks for your support.
Welcome back to Beyond the Badge. We are now here with Jane Clay-Veter and Brian Wright, who are from the Christine Ann Center. And Brian, thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
And Jean, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself, Jean.
I am the Development and Marketing Outreach Coordinator for Christine Ann. I actually was just hired towards the end of June, and my job is basically community outreach. I talk to people about what Christine Ann does and about domestic violence and what we can do to stop it.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on today's show. And Brian, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the youth and prevention advocate for Christine Ann. I actually graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh as a criminal justice major,
Excellent.
and then wound up being able to get into more of the prevention side of it. So, and I've been working in domestic violence for over the last 4.5 years. So,
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, both of you, thank you very much for coming on today's show and talking with us about this very important subject. Okay, Jean, what types of services are offered at the Christine Ann Domestic Abuse Services?
We have many services. Actually, we have a 24-hour hotline, a crisis hotline, that anytime someone feels the need, either they know someone that is going through a situation such as this, or they're going through it themselves, they can call 24 hours a day, and there's always a person answering the phone. Never we get an answering machine or anything along that lines. We have advocates dealing with all spectrums. We go from children, we have a children's advocate, we have a teen advocate, we have Brian that talks to the schools. We have adult advocates that deal with women in all different aspects of domestic violence, starting from women that are just starting to deal with the situation, all the way through women that are trying to solve the situation for their own self and helping their children, all the way to women that are trying to get on their own 2 feet. We have a self-sufficiency program that is very successful, helping them get back on their own feet. Those are the major programs that we have.
Great. And how is the, what types,
That's
how
okay.
is the renovation coming along at the Christine Ann Center?
The renovation is coming along very well. Our first phase is already completed, and that was the second half of the building, where we have clients from the outside of the shelter that come in for services. So a woman maybe that's not in crisis where she needs to be in the shelter, but she's still going through a domestic violence situation, can come in and talk to our advocates in a homier type environment. So that renovation, the first phase, is just that part of the shelter. Second phase is almost complete, and that involves the kitchen, which everybody's heard a lot about. And everyone will peek at it during the kitchen tour. And that part should be done towards the end of October-ish. And then the third phase of the renovation, which is the carriage house, that'll be done at the end of October.
All right. So a lot going on at Christine Ann Center.
There is definitely a lot going on there. Yeah, trying to get moved back in, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
always busy.
And Brian, what does your job entail as youth prevention advocate?
As the youth and prevention advocate, actually, I'm getting into all the schools basically to be able to educate students on what a healthy relationship really looks like. The majority of times, we have this stigma of what abuse is, and a lot of times the viewpoint on that is somebody being hit or somebody being punched. And so being able to get into the classrooms and being able to show them what a healthy relationship really looks like, and being able to educate them on the warning signs, what to look for, what to be aware of, so that when you're entering into relationships, you're going to know what to expect. And another big part of that is actually I'm going to be working a lot with teen males that are showing displays of aggression or are a part of an abusive relationship themselves, that are being the batterers. And actually doing like a 6-week program to be able to better teach them better ways to manage that anger and better ways to be able to cope with situations, so that they don't have to continue to hurt the people that we love and care about. And then I'm also actually focusing with the family dynamics program, which will deal with the families coming into shelters and basically being able to work to rebuild those relationships that have been lost due to the dysfunction within the homes. Because so many times those relationships are really kind of torn from the situations that are at home. So being able to rebuild that and rebuild the unity and communication to be able to better serve them as a team, and get them to be able to be a healthier functioning family. So
well, that's great. That's really great, because I know that when I was in high school many years ago, you never had something like that or never saw anything like that.
Yeah,
So that's fantastic.
taboo.
And Brian, working with prevention, what would be a few tips or warning signs to look out for when getting into a relationship? Because of a lot of people, they don't see the abuse if it's not physical.
Sure, absolutely. It is, as I was stating before, a lot of times if the individual is never hit, or the person that's being abused, if it's never physical, then it's just, it's not abuse, or that's not happening to me. And in reality, we never have to hit somebody to be able to get them to do what we want. It's all about that power and control. And the warning signs, in order to be able to better help educate somebody, or to be able to get them wanting to be able to seek help, is getting them to be able to understand that it is actually abuse and that the things that are happening are never okay. And teaching them about the warning signs, the 8 individual aspects that make up abuse way before it becomes physical, is one of the ways to actually be able to get an abuser or a person to be able to realize that, hey, this isn't okay, hey, this wasn't my fault. You know, him blaming me or this individual putting it on me, you know, that wasn't my fault. So really being able to get them to be able to see that is one better way to be able to get them to actually coming forward to being able to get the help that they need. So,
Well, kind of eye-opening, I'll tell you that. So, and Jean, how can someone get help if they are themselves are in an abusive relationship, or they may know of someone who's in an abusive relationship?
Well, the first thing they should always do is have an open ear. You know, listen to your friends and listen to other people around you, and you can sometimes pick up tips of something might be going on in their relationship. Your job is never to solve their problem. Your job is to listen and to hear and maybe send them to us. The 24-hour hotline is open to people who are in those situations as well as those that may know someone that's in that situation. So call the 24-hour hotline and we can probably direct you to somewhere. Well, not probably. We definitely can direct you where to go or how to proceed at that situation. It's not something that you should take on yourself if your friend is in that situation. But if you or you know someone, call the 24-hour hotline. We can direct you in the right direction.
Okay. And Jean and Brian, now with, I guess, domestic abuse and the sexual assault, how often do you see that in a relationship? I mean, I know that that's part of it as well, but how often would you see that in such a relationship with problems?
a lot of times sexual coercion and sexual assault kind of go hand in hand with that power and control, and with those relationships a lot of times a big part of that is, you know, if you loved me you would be able to do this, or, you know, if you really wanted to be with me, then, you know, why don't we take this to the next level, why aren't we doing this, you know, and a lot not being educated on being able to say no, or not being educated that you do have a choice, you have a voice, and that anytime anything's forced, coerced, or manipulated, it's never okay and it's not healthy. And so the majority of times it goes very hand in hand, the two of them together. We see it very commonly, and it's something that's very prevalent, not only in the middle schools but the high schools, and, you know, it's all over.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on today's show. We very much appreciate it, Gene. Brian, thank you very much for coming on today's show.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. And we'll be right back after this short break.
In Wisconsin, the laws are the same for bicyclists and motorists. So if you bike, ride with the traffic and obey stop signs and lights. Whether you ride a bike or drive a car, you must yield the right-of-way to pedestrians at marked and unmarked crosswalks. At intersections, always look for pedestrians before making a turn, and slow down in school zones and neighborhoods to keep our kids safe. Share and be aware. We're all responsible.
Thinking about dealing drugs in our county? Think again.
Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Badge. We are here with Gene and Brian. And Gene, since October is Domestic Violence Month, Awareness Month, what is the Christine Ann Domestic Abuse Center doing to promote community awareness?
We actually have quite a few things going on. First, it's the Take Back the Night on campus. That's a community event open to everyone on October 9th. It starts at 5:30. And it's an awesome event where people come together just to take a look at violence in general against women, not just domestic violence, but all violence. So all of our agencies come together to celebrate that night. And during the march, we actually walk past the Christine Ann Center. It's a pretty interesting evening. We also have Dine for Domestic Violence in October, and what we're doing is we're partnering with area restaurants so that the community members can go and enjoy a meal with their family or friends, and then part of the proceeds will come back to the Christine Ann Center. So it's a way to support the center during Domestic Violence Month. And then we are also submitting newspaper articles during the month of October, each week focusing on a different tactic or a different control measure that is used against victims of domestic violence. So take a look in the newspaper, you see different articles there. And then interested organizations or companies can call Christine Ann, and we would be willing to have one of our members come out and speak to them about domestic violence. We'd love to fill up our calendar talking about it and talking about how to stop it, and basically put Brian and I out of a job. If we could if we could just stop it, that'd be great. So talk to people about what they can do to help us fight against domestic violence.
Fantastic. Well, once again, I thank you both for being on today's show and talking with us. And don't forget about this year's Take Back the Night program, which is being held on Wednesday, October 9th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. at the Reeve Memorial Union on the UW Oshkosh campus. Also a reminder that this year's Halloween trick-or-treating is scheduled for Thursday, October 31st from 5 to 7 p.m. Parents, please remember to walk with your children when trick-or-treating, okay, in your neighborhoods. Make sure that the kids are wearing bright colored costumes that are properly fit, and that you also have a flashlight when walking during hours of darkness. Be sure that you check the candy before you consume it. If you do see something suspicious, okay, throw it out. If you do happen to find something in the candy, make sure you contact the Oshkosh Police Department or your local jurisdiction and report it. We want everyone to have a safe and enjoyable Halloween. For replay times, check out OshkoshCommunityMedia.org or OshkoshPD.com if you missed a show or want to watch us again. Remember, you can catch us also on streaming video at OshkoshCommunityMedia.org. We thank all of you watching us today and listening to us here at Beyond the Badge. Until next time, stay safe, be vigilant, and crime-free.